You didn't click on this video by chance. You may think you chose it freely, that your finger touched the screen at random, but Freud would say otherwise. He would tell you that hidden beneath your conscious choice was something deeper, an unconscious drive, a hidden desire, a silent force guiding you without your awareness. That is the unsettling truth Freud gave to the world. Most of what you do, think, and feel is not the product of your free will. It is the echo of the unconscious. Imagine walking into a room and instantly disliking someone, though you cannot explain why, or saying the wrong word at the wrong time, exposing something you didn't mean to reveal, or dreaming of strange images that make no sense but leave you unsettled. Freud insisted these moments are not accidents. They are fragments of the unconscious, pushing their way into the surface of your life. And today, by clicking here, you have obeyed the same hidden call. Something within you wanted this message, even before you realized it. This is the first confrontation. You are not as free as you believe. Your unconscious shapes your steps. It pushes you toward choices you cannot rationalize. It influences your relationships, your fears, your ambitions. It whispers behind every thought, every action. And when you ignore it, when you pretend it does not exist, the unconscious does not vanish. It grows, it waits, it finds uglier ways to return. Think of the times you have suppressed anger. You tell yourself you're calm, you bury the resentment, convincing yourself it's gone. But weeks later, it erupts, perhaps in an argument where you explode far beyond what the situation required, perhaps in a cruel word you didn't mean to say. That eruption is not random. It is the unconscious, long ignored, forcing its way back to the surface. Freud called this repression, the mind's attempt to bury painful emotions and forbidden desires. But repression is never final. What is buried alive never stays silent. You have felt this in your own life. The unresolved grief that returns in dreams, the childhood wound that shapes your relationships, the shame you thought you left behind, yet still directs your choices. Freud believed that human beings are haunted by the unconscious, and until we confront it, we are not free. You think you are in control. You believe you are steering your life. But in truth, much of the steering is being done by forces you refuse to see. Here lies the problem. Society rewards the mask. It teaches you to hide what you feel, to bury your anger, your envy, your lust, your fear, to be polite, proper, controlled. But in burying these emotions, you do not destroy them. You only drive them underground, and underground they gain power. They distort your behavior, leak through your words, shape your destiny in ways you cannot understand. This is why Freud said the unconscious is the true master of your life. You may ignore it, but it does not ignore you. You didn't arrive at this message by chance. You arrived because something inside you is restless. Something within you seeks to be acknowledged. Maybe you have felt trapped by habits you cannot explain. Maybe you have sabotaged relationships without knowing why. Maybe you have carried guilt, shame, or desire that you cannot put into words. Freud would say your unconscious has guided you here because part of you knows it is time to listen. The cost of ignoring the unconscious is high. When you bury emotions, they do not disappear. They transform. Anxiety, depression, compulsions, destructive relationships. These are not just random misfortunes. They are symptoms, messages from the unconscious, demanding to be heard. Freud compared them to pressure building beneath the surface of the mind. The longer you suppress, the more explosive the return. And when it returns, it does not knock politely. It breaks the door. This is why you often feel divided. On the surface, you present yourself as calm, rational, in control. But beneath there is turbulence, unspoken desires, unresolved wounds, unacknowledged fears. This inner conflict drains your energy. It creates the sense of emptiness, of being lost, of not knowing who you really are. And so you keep searching for something outside yourself, success, approval, distraction, when the real battle is inside. Freud's revelation is not comfortable. It is disturbing, because it means you cannot trust your conscious mind entirely. It means you must question your motives, your decisions, even your desires. How much of what you want is truly yours? How much is shaped by childhood wounds, by repression, by the voices of parents, teachers, society? If you dare to ask these questions, you begin to see the truth. You are a mystery to yourself. But here is the paradox. While the unconscious binds you, it can also free you. Because once you begin to listen to it, to confront it, to bring it into awareness, you reclaim power. What once controlled you in the shadows can be integrated into the light. This is the path Freud opened, the path of uncovering, of making the unconscious conscious. It is not easy. It demands honesty, courage, and the willingness to face what you have buried. But only through this confrontation do you stop being a prisoner of your own silence. You are here because some part of you is ready for that confrontation. You may not know it yet, but by choosing this message, you have already answered the call of your unconscious. Freud would say you have taken the first step, the step of listening. And from this step, the journey begins. In the next part, we will explore Freud's revelation, how repression works, how dreams and slips of the tongue reveal hidden truths, and why facing your unconscious is the only way to reclaim your freedom. Because you did not click here by accident. You clicked because something deep within you demanded it, and if you keep listening, you may finally begin to hear it. Freud believed that the unconscious is never silent. Even when you suppress emotions or try to bury thoughts, they will find a way to express themselves. The unconscious leaks through cracks, subtle but undeniable. It appears in dreams, in slips of the tongue, in jokes, in sudden anxieties, in the strange choices you cannot explain. These are not random accidents. They are signals, messages from the parts of yourself you try to ignore. Consider the dream. Every night, when the conscious mind rests, the unconscious rises. It speaks in symbols, metaphors, fragments of memory. You may dream of running endlessly, of falling, of forbidden encounters, of childhood places. At first glance, these dreams feel nonsensical. But Freud argued that dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. They reveal what the waking mind senses. They are the stage where suppressed desires act out their stories. Think about a dream you remember. Perhaps it unsettled you. Perhaps it made no sense. Perhaps it lingered for days. Freud would ask, what does it hide beneath the surface? Because dreams never tell the truth directly. They disguise it. They cloak desire in symbols so the conscious mind does not reject it. The falling dream may reveal your fear of failure. The endless chase may symbolize guilt you cannot escape. The forbidden encounter may expose a repressed longing. To study your dreams, Freud insisted, is to study yourself without masks. But dreams are not the only leaks. Freud identified what became famous as the Freudian slip, when the tongue reveals what the mind tries to hide. Perhaps you called someone by the wrong name, or said a word you did not mean, or exposed a secret unintentionally. To most, this is a mistake. To Freud, it is a revelation. The unconscious pushing its way into speech. The truth slipping past the guard of repression. Think of the last time you made such a mistake. Did you laugh it off? Did others tease you? Freud would tell you to pay attention, because in that moment, the unconscious spoke. It said what you were unwilling to admit, and though small, these slips expose the deeper currents shaping your thoughts. The unconscious also leaks through symptoms, anxiety without cause, compulsions that make no sense, habits that sabotage you. Why do you procrastinate on the work you care about most? Why do you push away those you love? Why do you repeat patterns you swore to escape? Freud believed these are not coincidences. They are symptoms of repression. The unconscious demanding expression in indirect, often destructive ways. Repression, Freud said, is both necessary and dangerous. Necessary because society demands control. If every desire erupted freely, chaos would reign. But dangerous because repression never eliminates, it only delays. And the more powerful the repression, the more twisted its return. This is why trauma reappears years later, why unspoken emotions transform into illness, why silence feels safe at first, but poisonous over time. Imagine your mind as a house. The conscious rooms are those you show guests, clean, decorated, orderly. But in the basement, hidden from sight, you throw everything you don't want to deal with. Fears, guilt, shame, rage, forbidden dreams. At first, the basement door holds. But over time, the weight grows. The door rattles, cracks appear, and eventually, what was hidden floods the house. That flood is what Freud warned about. Ignore the basement, and it will one day consume you. This is why Freud's revelation is terrifying. It tells you that much of your suffering is not random. It is self-created, the price of ignoring yourself. The anxiety that wakes you at night, the self-sabotage that ruins opportunities, the conflict in your relationships. These may all be expressions of what you have repressed. You cannot escape the unconscious. You can only confront it. But how? Freud offered methods: psychoanalysis, free association, dream interpretation, ways of listening to the unconscious without censorship. He asked patients to speak freely, without editing their thoughts. And in those flows of words, hidden patterns emerged. Desires revealed themselves, wounds uncovered their scars. The unconscious began to speak in daylight. The lesson is this: the unconscious is not your enemy. It is not a dark monster waiting to destroy you. It is a part of you longing to be heard. Its leaks, dreams, slips, symptoms are not punishments. They are invitations. Invitations to know yourself more deeply, to stop pretending you are only what the surface shows, to admit that within you there are shadows, but also truths. Freud would tell you, you didn't click here by chance. You clicked because your unconscious wanted a mirror, a place where it could speak. And by listening, by paying attention, you are already taking the step most people never take. You are turning toward yourself instead of running away. In the next part, we will go deeper. We will explore why denial is so powerful, why desires control behavior from the shadows, and why your unconscious is not just shaping your present, but writing your destiny. Because only by understanding this can you begin to reclaim freedom. Because freedom is not the absence of chains outside, it is the release of the chains within. Why do we deny ourselves so often? Why do we silence thoughts that keep returning, even though pretending they don't exist only makes them stronger? Freud believed denial is one of the mind's greatest tricks, a way to avoid pain, shame, or fear by burying it deep. Yet, denial is never neutral. Every time you push something into the shadows, it grows. Every time you say, "That doesn't affect me," you hand more power to what you are trying to escape. Think about the patterns you repeat in your life. Have you noticed them? The relationships that collapse in the same way, the mistakes that echo each other, the habits that destroy progress just when you are close to change. Freud called this the repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to replay unresolved conflicts over and over, as if hoping for a different ending. But the endings rarely change, because the unconscious is not healed by denial. It demands recognition. Until you face it, you are trapped in cycles that feel like fate. This is why Freud warned, what you refuse to confront will return. Maybe in the form of a new partner who feels strangely like the one before. Maybe in the job that suffocates you just like the last, maybe in the same mistakes that follow you from place to place, decade to decade. You may believe life is unfair, that misfortune keeps finding you, but Freud would say it is your unconscious, repeating its script, directing you toward the same lessons until you choose to learn them. Desire lies at the center of this cycle. Desire is not gentle, it is insistent, restless, often forbidden. Freud argued that human beings are driven more by desire than by reason. You may tell yourself you act logically, but beneath every choice there is longing. For love, for power, for validation, for release. And when desire is repressed, it does not disappear. It twists, it returns in strange forms, in obsession, in envy, in destructive choices. You find yourself chasing things you do not even want, simply because you cannot admit what you truly long for. Imagine a person who craves freedom but represses it. They may build a life of rigid control, denying themselves every indulgence, yet secretly they sabotage themselves with addictions, unable to handle the weight of their denial. Or someone who represses anger, always smiling, always the good person. They may one day explode in violence, shocking everyone, but not themselves, for deep inside, the anger never died, it only waited. And then there is guilt, the shadow of desire. Freud saw guilt as one of the strongest chains of the unconscious. When you want something society says you cannot have, guilt appears. When you feel something your mask cannot reveal, guilt appears. You bury it, hide it, pretend it isn't there. Yet guilt shapes your choices silently. It makes you sabotage opportunities. It makes you punish yourself. It convinces you that you do not deserve happiness. And so you deny yourself joy, not because the world refuses it, but because your unconscious insists you are unworthy. This is the tragedy Freud revealed. You are often your own jailer. You carry the key, but you keep locking yourself in. You blame fate, but it is your unconscious that writes the script. You think you are lost, but in truth, you are following a path your hidden mind laid for you long ago. But here is the possibility. Once you see the pattern, you can break it. Recognition is the first step to liberation. Freud believed awareness dissolves denial. The moment you admit a truth, no matter how shameful, how forbidden, how painful, it loses its power. What once ruled you in secret now stands in the open, and in the open, you can confront it, you can integrate it, you can choose differently. Ask yourself, what patterns have you repeated? What desires have you buried? What emotions have you denied? These are not rhetorical questions, they are doors. And if you dare to open them, you begin to reclaim your life from the unconscious scripts that enslave you. Destiny, Freud suggested, is often self-created, not through conscious planning art, but through unconscious repetition. The life you live may feel random, but much of it is the echo of unresolved conflicts. The partner who reminds you of your parents, the failures that mirror childhood wounds, the fears that trace back to moments you have forgotten but never escaped. This is the invisible hand of the unconscious, shaping your destiny. But destiny is not unchangeable. Awareness interrupts the cycle. Each time you recognize a pattern, each time you uncover a buried desire, each time you admit what you have denied, you break a chain. Slowly, you move from prisoner to participant. You stop being a puppet of hidden forces and begin to reclaim authorship of your life. This is why Freud's insights remain unsettling yet liberating. They tell you you are not fully in control, but they also whisper, you can be if you are willing to look inward. The unconscious shapes your destiny only as long as you ignore it. Once you confront it, you can write a new script. In the next part, we will reach the transformation. We will explore how to turn awareness into freedom, how to use practical steps to face your unconscious, and how the act of confronting yourself can lead not just to healing, but to power. because you didn't click here by chance. You clicked because you are ready to stop repeating the same story. And only by facing your shadows can you finally step into the light. The moment you recognize that the unconscious has been guiding you is both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because you see how much of your life has been shaped by forces outside your awareness. Liberating because you realize you are no longer blind. Once you have seen the patterns, once you have named the hidden emotions, you are no longer their prisoner. This is the heart of Freud's message. What is unconscious controls you until it becomes conscious. Awareness is freedom, but freedom is not automatic. It requires courage and discipline. Freud knew that confronting the unconscious is painful. You will not like everything you discover. You will find desires you once judged unforgivable. You will uncover wounds you thought forgotten. You will feel the weight of emotions you have suppressed for years. This is why most people run. This is why they prefer denial, because awareness hurts before it heals. Yet the only way out is through. So how do you turn awareness into transformation? How do you stop being a puppet of the unconscious and become the author of your life? Freud's work, along with the wisdom of psychology that followed, points to practical steps. Step 1. Journal your shadows. Writing is more powerful than you realize. When you write without censoring yourself, when you pour your thoughts onto the page freely, you bypass the conscious guard and allow the unconscious to speak. Write down your dreams, your slips, your fears, your longings. Do not edit. Do not polish. Let the raw truth flow. Over time, you will notice patterns, the same themes returning, the same emotions calling out. This is your unconscious revealing itself in ink. Step 2. Embrace solitude. Distraction is the greatest ally of repression. You drown your truth in noise, in screens, in endless activity. Solitude is frightening because it strips away distraction, but it is in solitude that you hear the whispers of the unconscious. Set aside time each day to be still, to sit with your thoughts, to let the silence reveal what you are avoiding. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the space where your hidden self comes out of the shadows. Step 3. Speak the unspeakable. Whether in therapy, with a trusted friend, or even aloud to yourself, give words to what you have buried. Freud discovered that putting repressed emotions into words is a form of release. To speak is to unchain. What was locked in silence loses its destructive power when expressed. Find safe spaces where your truth can be spoken without judgment. Every word you release is a burden lifted. Step 4. Set boundaries with yourself and others. Your unconscious often pushes you into repeating destructive patterns. Boundaries interrupt these cycles. Say no when you need to. Walk away when your old wounds tempt you to repeat the same mistakes. Create rules that protect your clarity. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors. They allow you to step into a new way of living while keeping out the forces that drag you back into denial. Step 5. Face your desires honestly. Desire is not the enemy. Repression is. Admit what you want, even if you cannot pursue it. Acknowledge the longing instead of burying it. Once desire is named, it stops haunting you from the shadows. Sometimes simply admitting, "Yes, I want this," dissolves the power it has over you. Honesty breaks the chains of guilt. These steps are not easy, but they are the path of freedom. They transform awareness into strength. They turn shadows into teachers. They take what once enslaved you and turn it into wisdom. Imagine what happens when you do this. You stop repeating the same cycles. You break the patterns of sabotage. You choose relationships out of clarity, not wounds. You pursue goals from freedom, not compulsion. You live with authenticity instead of masks. People around you will notice. They will sense the difference. You will carry an aura of steadiness, of depth, of truth. This is rare in a world addicted to denial. And rare people are unforgettable. This is the transformation Freud made possible. Not perfection, not a life without shadows, but a life where shadows no longer dominate. A life where you can look inward without fear. A life where you walk free because you have faced what others run from. Now ask yourself, are you ready? Are you ready to stop hiding from yourself? Are you ready to see the patterns, admit the desires, confront the wounds? Because if you are, the unconscious ceases to be your enemy. It becomes your guide. It becomes the map to your truest self. You didn't click here by chance. You clicked because something in you is ready. Something within you has grown tired of silence. Something in your unconscious has pushed you to this moment, to this message, to this choice. And now you must decide. Will you ignore it again, or will you listen? Write in the comments to seal your decision. I choose awareness if you are ready to face your unconscious. I break the cycle if you refuse to repeat the same patterns. I walk free if you choose authenticity over repression. Your words matter. They are the first step from silence to speech, from repression to freedom. Share them, declare them, and subscribe, because this is not the end. It is the beginning of a deeper journey into truth, into psychology, into philosophy, into the strength of becoming fully yourself, because freedom is not outside, it begins within. And now, you know where to look.